adding a small ornamental tree to our garden. This is a river birch, Betula nigra, and this weeping variety is called Summer Cascade. It's a selection from Monrovia, and it'll have a mature height of about 6 feet, but a nice graceful weeping spread to 10 feet. Now, the most important consideration when we're planting a tree is the planting hole, preparing the site properly. Aside from climactic limitations, the greatest limitation to the success of a tree planting is poor drainage and percolation. And we address drainage at the time of planting, and we do this by digging a very wide planting hole, not by amending the soil. So we want to dig a hole that's at least 3 times the width of our root ball, but only as deep as our root ball. We don't want to set it too deep. In fact, in clay soils, we're going to end up setting our plant so that the soil level in the container is about 1 to 2 inches above grade of the soil surrounding where we're planting it. If you have a sandy soil, you're going to want to set it at grade. Okay, well, we're ready to get our plant out and put it in the hole. Carefully handling our tree during planting time is important so that we don't damage the tree at all. So I'm going to have Laura Payne help me with this. We also want, as much as we can, to try to slide the container off the tree rather than pulling on the stem. And again, we have a pretty tight root ball. I'm going to go ahead and just use my hands to try to loosen some of the roots that I can see coming down, some of the larger roots. Okay, now once we have our root ball a little bit loosened, we could go ahead and fill our hole. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about amending the soil and amending the hole itself. For example, some people might say to put gravel in the bottom to help with drainage, and that in fact won't improve drainage, and it can actually create some soggy conditions in the bottom of your hole. Also, we don't want to mix anything such as compost or sand in with our native soil. Studies have shown that that can actually hinder the establishment of the tree, and it can lead to some problems later on with root rot. So the best way to give our plant a good start is to use the soil that you took out of the hole to begin with. As we're backfilling, we want to make sure that we cover all the roots. So we want to pull the soil up just above the level of where the soil was in the container. And because we're slightly above grade level, it's important to mulch the plant right away. Mulching will help to conserve soil moisture and prevent that root ball from drying out so fast. Now, it's also important not to put a plastic mulch underneath our organic mulch. Some people think that that'll help protect against weeds, but what happens is it creates a very wet layer, and the roots of the tree are actually drawn up to that moisture layer, and we end up with these surface roots which are prone to injury. We want to make sure that we don't pile this mulch up against the trunk as well. We want to leave an area of about 2 to 4 inches that is mulch free, because that could be an area where insects or diseases harbor and can cause some damage against our trunk. So pull the mulch away, but lay a nice thick 2 to 4 inch layer away from the trunk. Be sure to keep an area of 4 to 6 feet clear of turf or other plants and weeds around your tree as it establishes. And of course, we always want to water our plant in very well. Now, trees are going to require irrigation regularly as they establish. They're going to require about 1 inch of water per week, and in really hot and windy conditions, you might have to water your newly established tree or shrub 2 to 3 times a week to keep it well irrigated. We're not going to require any fertilization as the tree is established, and we also don't want to add any fertilizer to the planting hole. That's a common mistake when we're planting. Newly planted trees only require a very limited amount of pruning, and that's just simply to remove any broken or damaged limbs such as this. Now, young trees can be staked if they're in a really windy location such as we have here, but I'm going to remove the stake that came with the tree. Sometimes they're staked for shipping, but they're staked a little bit tight. And so I'm going to remove this and give it a new stake, and we're only going to need to keep our tree staked for about 2 or 3 months as it becomes established. You don't want to stake a tree for too long because you'll actually end up weakening the root system. As we plant a new tree, we want to take great care to establish it properly. It can add a lot of value to our landscape, but it can also be expensive to replace if it fails. You can learn more about planting trees and shrubs from OSU Fact Sheet 6414, Planting Trees and Shrubs.